Welcome back again. This is part 3 of the HearFormPRO 2018 introductory video. I'm going to go a little bit fast on this video because we have a lot to cover, and you'll be able in the future to be able to see things much slower. But for now, again, this is just an introduction. So I've zoomed in, as you can tell, so that you can see the buttons a little bit easier. And some of them, because I'm at 150%, the buttons will look a little weird, but a little disjointed, but I think you'll get the idea. I'm going to look at the scheduler part a little bit later, but and I'm also going to look at the invoicing area a little bit later. But I do want to show you the devices area. This is where you've already seen at the bottom of the screen the hearing aid devices stored down there. But we also have the ability to pull up an unlimited number of devices for each patient, a little bit easier in a card window. We can look at the table right from here. It's much easier to get to those hearing aids. But you'll notice that this area doesn't include what it used to have, the stock loaners and demos, and that's because we've separated them. By clicking the little hearing aid button here, it asks me would I like to work with stock loaners or demos. So these are in 3 separate areas, making it easier to interact with them. And it's super easy to assign. You just click one of the desired, you look at the hearing aid that you want, and then click the blue button, and that will assign that to Jennifer with one click. I can clear that very easily as well, or I can duplicate a device so I don't have to re-enter all kinds of different information. Now you can't see off to the side. Normally you would if I wasn't zoomed in so much, but I can see all the information about all those particular units. So that's true of both or all 3 stock loaners and demos. We've already looked at the chart notes area. It's really easy to set up the buttons so that they say exactly what you want, and again you now have 50 buttons where you can set up a word, phrase, sentence, or paragraph with a single click of a button. So it's much easier to do that. In addition to that, you now have something down here called general notes. So those were chart notes, and general notes are similar, except general notes allow you to put in information that you may not want to go into an area that's more HIPAA compliant, but general notes may be just things that are important to you or your staff, and so that information can just be stored in a general notes area, an additional area. Also, you have the ability to click this little button here and put in a special note. So I'm just going to write something silly and just say this is a note, just to show you that when I do, notice it colors that, just so that your staff can see, oh, there must be a note that's important for me to look at, and I can pop that up very easily. That way it doesn't take up important space or make it busy on the home screen, but you've got that behind the scenes if you need it. So we have a lot of different buttons here that do different things that you can kind of play around with later. But for example, in the Forms button, you can click, and this is where you can record the fact of whether or not permission has been given for you to email certain things or print certain things, if it's denied or approved or neither one of those. You can also go right to the Forms area, and we'll cover that in just a minute. Go right to the letter areas, or look to the far right. If I click that button, it pulls up all my forms or all my letters right here, making it easy to interact with those. So it's a lot easier to do that. In the same way, we've got envelopes that we can print or preview right from here, and we've got labels that we can get to. We've talked a little bit about the recall system, but it's easier to use than it was before, and it's just really a lot more powerful and makes it much easier to pull up information and interact with your recalls, and more importantly to send those out as either a text or an email or your recall letters. So you'll see that a little bit later as well. Our battery club, this just lets us know that Jeannie is a member of the battery club. It turns a lavender color again. Jennifer is not, so she's got an important note, but she's not a member of the battery club. This little button here is really neat. If you have an iPhone or an iPad and you click on that button, then it will automatically turn your camera on and be all ready to just click and take a picture of a patient. But you can also not just use that for patients, but you can actually take a picture. Let's say if a hearing aid was damaged somehow, or the dog chewed that up or something, you can keep track of a right or left device. For some reason, you may want a picture of their right or left outer ear, or if you have tympanometry information that you want to store in there. All of that is really easy to work with now. And for some things, you can actually use the iPhone or iPad to take those pictures very easily. The image is transferred wirelessly instantly. You don't have to transfer it. It's just done through the FileMaker Go app. So the suppliers area hasn't changed much at all. We're going to change that a little bit more in phase 2 of HearFormPRO 2018, but that part hasn't changed much. Our reports section allows you to pull up and go to a variety of different areas within the program. So we've really made it much easier to interact with a lot of your tables and your information if desired. So again, it really makes it easy to get to all of your data. And the My Lists area also make it very easy to interact with lists in a way that you couldn't before. We think you'll like that. You can title each of these buttons very easily simply by clicking a button. So I'll give you an example. Let's go back to letters. It used to be a lot harder to customize your letters. You had to go into layout mode or sometimes call us, but now you just click the button in the upper right and you can title your letters anything you want. What's great about that is you can also change the name of your layout, and you don't have to worry about breaking anything, breaking relationships, or having to call us for help. It's just much easier. And again, you have about 300 letters in the system, making it very easy to send your patients communications. Have about 150 forms that are in the system. So as I scroll down just a little bit more, our marketing and telemarketing area is also not a lot different than they used to be. The top part is what's very different. The ability to search is similar as it used to be, but you can again pull up everybody who matches a particular criteria, and there they all are. I can go to my new technology letter, click print, and that will automatically print a letter for that particular patient. So that's how these buttons work on the left side of the screen. We've just optimized things and tried to make it a little bit easier to interact with things in a way that we had not before. But in our next videos, we're going to talk about the scheduler and the invoicing, because those areas deserve some attention on their own. Let's just briefly look at the audiology area, and as you can see, we can pull up the two most recent audiograms right there, or if I want to go just a little bit deeper, I can see up to 8 audiograms for that particular patient, and the audiogram area has been optimized. Let's zoom in so you can see it just a bit better. And we've just cleaned things up and made it easier to do certain things. Similar, but again, just more efficient now, including the ability to pull up and print very professional looking forms and that sort of thing. So we think that you'll find that that area has been improved, including the soap notes area, which is a way to print your reports to referring physicians. So we've just made it a lot easier to send that information, and it's at the same time. For example, in audiology, it's not as busy looking as it used to be. So I'd have to pull this over here for you to see it better, but when I click a button, I can pull up little windows, making it easier. It's less cluttered, but I can just click buttons and say I did this and this and this and this. So I think you'll find that the soap notes area is a lot easier than it used to be. So let's go back home, and in our next video we'll explain a little bit more about the scheduling and invoicing modules.